Well, welcome back. It is 7:15, and we just witnessed History Monday when President Trump traveled to Jerusalem and announced an end to the Hamas-Israel war. There were huge celebrations as hostages were released and promises that the devastated Gaza Strip will be rebuilt. But what happens next? And will this peace last? Joining us is Christopher Lowe, the director of the Middle East Center at the University of Utah. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And first of all, it seemed like this agreement kind of came out of nowhere, and President Trump taking the initiative. How did that all come about?
I think it's not completely out of nowhere. I think that the substance of the sort of 20-point Trump plan, many of these items had really been on the agenda even in the Biden administration. I think this deal could have been made earlier had there been more forceful pressure from either the Biden or Trump administrations and Israeli willingness to go along with that. What I think has happened is a few things have changed in the last several months. One is sort of the neutralization of Iran as a sort of real player in the issue. And then in September, the Israelis did an airstrike on Qatar to eliminate Hamas leadership. And I think that this was getting out over their skis a bit. And this really upset U.S. security arrangements in the Persian Gulf, in the Arabian Peninsula, and sort of added a new dimension of pressure for Israel and the United States to sort of recalibrate and slow things down a bit.
So is this a situation, will peace last? I mean, the history has just been unsettled for ages.
Sure. I mean, look, credit where credit is due, right? Bringing home the Israeli hostages is obviously a positive. Bringing home the political prisoners on the Palestinian side to Gaza, that's also a positive. And just a ceasefire, right? Tamping down the violence. All of that is a good thing. But the step one part, the exchange of hostages, we've seen this before. This is something that can be arranged because there's a kind of immediacy to it. It's a 1 + 1 = 2, full stop. What comes next? De-radicalization, disarmament of Hamas, trying to construct a technocratic Palestinian government, a peace board potentially headed by Tony Blair, an international stabilization force with countries like Turkey, Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Indonesia, France, all floated as potential contributors. There are a lot of moving parts to get to something that we would call peace. And then the other piece of this is none of this agreement offers a two-state solution. It doesn't get you to solving the actual issue.
And that's been the problem all along.
Yeah. So I think, again, positive that we're not actively at war. Will it stick? I think there are signs of tensions already. Exchange of bodies today is an issue. Actually, Palestinians in Gaza have been killed by Israel since the agreement. So we're already on shaky ground, a day, 2 days after the agreement.
And Israel is, they have a bad reputation right now through all of this.
Yeah, I think, the other part of what made this happen is that, outside of the United States and a few other kind of more sympathetic allies, Israel has a terrible reputation, not only in the Arab world, the Muslim world, but in Europe more globally right now. The violence in Gaza, whether you want to call it ethnic cleansing or use the word genocide, has really sort of damaged Israel's international reputation. So there's pressure on Israel too. I mean, obviously Hamas and the Gazans are in a terrible position, but Israel has things to lose as well.
Okay, rebuilding Gaza Strip. Is that going to work? Is that even possible? I mean, there's hardly anything left of it.
Yeah, I mean, the statistics about the number of munitions dropped, it sort of makes the fire bombings of World War II, kind of pale in comparison. So the sort of removal of the rubble, the financial investment, right? So, Trump has mused about UAE, Qatari, Saudi, Gulf money essentially being able to rebuild. I think the money and the will is there, but I don't think any of these states want to put their citizens in harm's way in order to make that happen. So just thinking about the International Stabilization Force, would Saudi Arabia want to put its forces or UAE's forces in the line of fire directly adjacent to Israelis. I don't think that that's a political possibility. I could be wrong, but I think getting from point A to point B, the money is there. I think that can be done, but getting rid of Hamas, de-radicalization, stabilization that comes before, very difficult.
Now, Iran was kind of a factor in all this earlier than
Yes.
we had the airstrikes from the U.S. Did that kind of help things a little bit as far as Israel's concerned?
Sure. As far as Israel is concerned, I mean, sort of neutralizing Iran as a major force. So obviously, Hamas is deeply degraded. Hezbollah is deeply degraded. Israel has been acting within Syria. I think the only sort of wild card that's left in the sort of Iranian axis is the Houthis in Yemen. But again, they're far away and have sort of limited capacity. So that part is helpful, but not entirely sort of off the table.
You just got back from Saudi Arabia yourself,
Yeah.
so what's the feeling there with all of this going on?
Look, I think the news coverage that I was seeing in the Arab world and sort of the interactions that I was having on the ground is, no one's holding their breath. Deep skepticism that Israel will abide by its end of the bargain. They're certainly clear-eyed about Hamas, that Hamas is not a good actor. So I think, yesterday I was watching CNN and all the other news coverage here, and it was slobbering. I mean, I'm not sure what the right word is, and I think that the tone in the Arab world was much, much more skeptical.
Okay, so the bottom line is it's still kind of wait and see.
Wait and see.
All right. Christopher Lowe, thank you very much for being with us, Director of Middle East Center at the University of Utah.